AQNIN9 S5E21. A Flick Through the Scripts, Part 1, Take 1. 5. Oh no, do you want to do 5?
And in we go.
Should we leave that as it is?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Cool, we're going into Series 3 of the script book, the Flick Through the Script book process. I think we should start this week by saying that there has been news over the past few days of Series 6's imminent release next month, whatever that means.
I like that you've preceded that with the word imminent, but we don't know when.
We don't know when. We've not known when since all of these little drip feed teasers have been coming out. But
drip feed teasers. Nice.
Maltesers in the sun. What a start. Okay.
We're about 3 steps away from bunches of knives.
Black dripping bananas. Yeah, so let's wind the clock back to a point where this made sense and say Devil of Christmas is the first episode of this third series in the Flick Through the Scripts that we're doing. As always, if you want to hear our reaction episode or Iraction episode, you can go, it's the first look through where we pick it apart in more detail, I would say, and talk about things that we probably won't talk about today in this episode. So the intention of this is essentially to look at the discrepancies between the script and the finished show, and also, well, I'm going to add this bit because I want to do it, but just kind of enjoy some of our favourite lines again. Because there's some of my very favourite lines inside number 9 in this one. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, like, any kind of overall feelings about the general sense that you got from the scripts?
I like this got some stuff in the forward bit at the beginning. It was nice. It was nice to read some contextual bits around it in there.
Yeah, should we start with the forward, actually? I really enjoyed this forward.
Yeah, me too. It's when they were talking about, specifically when they were writing this one, because they were talking about the difference between how sometimes you just have an episode almost throw itself at you whilst you're out and about doing your daily business.
Yeah.
Not doing your business. That's
like a dog.
But like just when they're having lunch and there's some people arguing about a bill in a restaurant, then suddenly there's almost a fully formed idea.
Yeah. Or you're wandering along and you see a shoe on the road.
Yeah, exactly.
And then when you are a dog, do your business in it. Why not?
But then with this one, it was apparently, it says that they had this idea of how they were going to, they had the idea of a family trapped in the chalet and the legend of the Krampus around the whole thing. But, and they said it felt like it was really stilted and coming out like a Scooby-Doo episode. And I thought that was really interesting because they clearly decided the best way to deal with that was to turn it into a pastiche of exactly that sort of thing. So rather than go for a rewrite and try and turn it into something that it clearly wasn't, it was a case of the best thing to do with this is to turn it into a dodgy TV show.
Yeah.
Why fight it? That's what this is. And that's
the story within the story. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I thought that's what makes it. And that's like, I think what they write there about the kind of creative process is so fascinating. Like, yeah, when I was reading it this morning, I was kind of like, yeah, that's such a interesting insight about writing and creativity generally. Like when they're saying like during a non-writing phase, the shoe she's talking about Diddle Diddle Dumpling. Like the shoe would have barely been acknowledged, but when the receptors are open and greedily hunting for stories, it's suddenly imbued with comic and dramatic potential. And at other times, an idea must be laboriously forced from the brain, like the last bit of toothpaste in the tube, which is what they're kind of referring to with this process. And I really like that idea that and that captures, I think so many people, like for me, it's the same with my creative process, and so many people have that experience of like, it's not a one size fits all. It doesn't happen in the same way every time. It's like sometimes you will be out and about and you'll be struck by that inspiration. It's like, that's the thing. Other times it's like, I've got this seed of an idea, and then you've got to like mold it and force it and try and make sense of it. And it's like, I know the core of this has legs, but it takes a hell of a lot of work to try and find what that is.
But what I like about this was this idea of they had that core of it, and they were almost fighting back against what it had become, and going, no, this isn't what we want. This isn't what we want. But then, like, the thing itself was almost pushing back at them and going, no, this is what I'm going to be. You need to figure out a way around this, because this is what I'm going to be sticking as. You make it work. And that's what they had to do. And the other little reference to this was at the beginning when they were talking about just their writing process and pausing for long breaks to discover whether Findus sounds better than Fray Bentos.
Yeah.
I love that. And like, it's that being specific thing, isn't it? That's what makes that funny. And the fact that it's not even just it's specific, it goes down to which of these is not only specific but a better specific.
Exactly. Yeah, it's choosing between the specifics. And actually Fray Bentos comes up in Cold Comfort. So they've already used that reference.
They're just like Middle England suburbia runs through.
Do you remember
Fray Bentos?
There was several times, because I'd never heard of Fray Bentos until I went to university. I'd never heard of a Fray Bentos.
No, because at home, Mum used to make pie. she was able to make pastry and put it in a pastry tin and everything.
Yeah, I had a couple of Fray Bentos when I went to university.
Me too, and they're fascinating.
Yeah, it's mind blowing how a pie emerges from a tin, and
it is. It's just like.
But for some reaon, I decided the best thing to accompany a pie with was a load of pasta. I used to have pasta in a pie. Like, it was probably that's dark. Like, it's the only way I can describe that.
I didn't even.
Do you not remember me?
I don't think I ever remember this.
When I used to
blocked it out.
I used to cook pasta in the kettle because I thought it would be easier because it's already boiling.
I remember that. That must have been a starchy kettle.
That was the pasta kettle. And wieners as well.
You know when you boil pasta and your pan of water is left with like a skin on top from the start? That is what that kettle would have been like. That's awful. Yeah. Did you then keep your tin opener out to open up a tin of Heinz soup to serve as a pasta sauce?
I imagine so. Yeah.
That'd be ridiculous. You were drinking £3 wine. It wasn't going to be Heinz soup, was it?
It wouldn't have been Heinz. No, it's kind of weird, isn't it? Weird days.
But yeah, Fray Bentos pies.
Yes,
incredible
more to the point.
Things.
Yeah.
Just grows out of it.
Magic, like really weird laboratory magic.
Beans come in tins. Whole meals that have multiple elements to them don't.
They shouldn't. And
that did.
It's not like. It's not to be trusted, is it?
Fray Bentos, not to be trusted.
Yeah. Yeah, so I enjoyed that foreword. And it was a nice little thing about their kind of routine.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. Yeah. I imagine them
meeting between 9 and 10. Last to arrive has to bring the coffees. When I read that, I was like, how do you know who? Yeah. And then it's like, we won't always know which of us will be the last to arrive. So 4 large lattes. So brilliant. Yeah, it's nice. But I think you see that kind of creative, I don't know, discrepancy of this particular episode through the script itself, like even from the start. So, when the title comes up, "The Devil of Christmas," off the back of the kind of old stock footage, it doesn't come up. They don't use a film by Dennis Fulcher.
No.
That doesn't come up.
No, and that's pushed back a bit as well. I was starting to think that we weren't going to hear about Dennis Fulcher's name at all until right at the end, but then it just ended up being shifted.
Yeah.
And some of that was all shifted around. And one thing I found really interesting was lines being added in place of direction to explain directions that were happening, like Celia missing her mark and things like that. Voiceover comes in to explain that had just happened.
Yeah.
I don't know whether they felt that it wasn't clear enough because
and when she makes her little mistake as well, and it's obviously there's an overdub, because I was like, I can't remember what. Minnie Fluff there. Dennis says with the bit where get back to bed at once, get to sleep, and then I went back and rewatched it, and like she mouthed something else, so they've obviously overdubbed it with the right line, but you wouldn't notice that.
No, that's true.
Apart from the fact that he says Minnie Fluff there,
yeah,
and it just adds another depth of another layer of just that sort of like, oh, what was that?
It's such a clever episode.
I think it's incredible. Like, and looking through the script has actually taken it to a whole new level because you've got the bits where Dennis is talking, and you've got the like they rewind the footage, and that's still playing out below, and there's layers of characters. So they've got characters playing characters, or they've got actors playing characters who are playing characters.
Yeah,
and
I think we spoke about that first time, didn't we? When we were just talking about this ability to draw out bad acting performances from people in a really good way. How it's amazing.
Yeah,
you're making these people act badly on purpose, which shows incredible acting.
Yeah, to the point where you, as the viewer, you don't know if what you're watching is which layer of the story this is part of. And even on another watch, like watching it again, the bit at the end with where Reese is like is it Simon Simon who's and you're like, no, this is still part of that original story that
this is still the Krampus.
Kathy, is it Kathy?
Yeah,
think she's part of. Like it's the Krampus story. Crumpet.
They're not on the bed having some champagne. Where are we in this story right now?
Yeah,
what is going on?
It's just like, this is so clever. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I think this is actually potentially one of my favourite episodes.
Yeah, I think you've said that before. It
really is
up there.
Just because it works on so many it's not a feel good episode. It feels really grim, and the end is just like it's absolutely nasty. But
I did notice that in one of the over commentary bits, he says something about something that they were doing. It was when they were moving the Krampus picture around,
right?
And he says, "I think we got away with it." And it's like that's the level he's working on. Is that's what he's concerned about getting away with. Is he's happy that they got away with moving a picture without people noticing. Not, I'm happy that we got away with murdering a woman in cold blood at the end of the film for entertainment.
Yeah.
And the interactions, I feel like, came out differently in the like what turns out to be the police interview. The guy on the other end of the police interview actually seems quite jolly and jovial. And I know we spoke about this before, and this kind of weird sense of not really being given a clue that that's where that was going.
Yeah.
It's almost like he's humouring him, and that they've got this old guy in who's not really of sound mind anymore, but they need to interview about some stuff that they found, because it all seems very like, oh yeah, look at that, rather than no, please answer our questions. This is horrendous.
Yeah.
What we're investigating here is awful.
Yeah, it's almost like he's operating at a level where Dennis is operating at a level where he still thinks this is a work of art and this is fine. So the interviewer is having to engage with him through that perception of reality.
He's not well.
Yeah.
And I think that if there is one area that this falls down, is that I think you have to come at the episode from that viewpoint, I think, for the police interview thing to work.
Yeah.
If that twist works, it has to be that you've got, because it's almost hidden too well. The twist is kind of concealed too well to the point that it almost doesn't work unless you think of it in that way.
Yeah. So he's like, yeah, his interview technique is fully in the, unless I've got to be on his level through this, and I've got to be talking to him as if this is a commentary for a film. Otherwise, this is not going to, he's just going to shut down. Yeah. And I think you can enter it at that level. I don't think that's beyond, it's not beyond the realms. Yeah.
I think we got away with it.
Yeah. There's quite a few added lines, actually, by Dennis.
Yeah, he just crops up now and again. There was a whole big chunk that disappeared when they were leaving.
Yeah.
I did write down quite early on, why does Toby seem unable to speak in full sentences? Don't like skiing. Boring.
Toby is, I think Toby is fantastic. Boring.
Well, I guess actually it speaks to the fact that it was tough for them to get a hold of a child actor given the subject matter of the film.
Yeah. Yeah, he's
boring.
But as we said before, it's just really great bad acting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love some of the actually some of the directions are different, which I think, again, to come back to that Scooby-Doo thing, some of the kind of impending doom horror moments don't happen.
No, there's...
So when...
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, when she picks up the shoe, when Toby's put the shoes out on the first night, and Kathy picks up the shoes, then decides she's being silly, puts them back down on the floor. She walks down the corridor. Behind us, she suddenly hears a creak, or was it a low moan? Swings round, frightened. She peers into the darkness at the end of the corridor.
Yeah.
Is there someone there in the shadows? And then we get what we get. Suddenly the door she has stopped beside opens. Kathy jumps in alarm. Julian is standing in the bathroom. So all that stuff about walking down the corridor doesn't happen. And actually it doesn't need to,
it doesn't.
You get the fright.
And I think that also in the foreword they were talking about time, and they spoke about Riddler the Sphinx and the fact that they were given some extra time for that. They, instead of the 29 minutes, they got 31. And so when we get to that, I'll be interested to see what disappeared out of that.
Yeah, I know.
Specific nod to that in that bit. But I guess they will probably have overrun this, and there had to be some things that went or trimmed. And I guess that sort of thing. And you're right. You can look at that and go, does that need to be here? And actually, does it help if it isn't?
But I think it serves when it's not there, because you've not got any of the mysterious noises. Like at that point, everything is just in her head of like, like why has he put the shoes out there, like the Krampus stuff, but actually there's nothing to serve that that fear.
Yeah.
And like the only thing that makes her jump is Julian coming out of the bathroom. So there's no noise, there's no shadows, there's none of that. And actually that's really that's a lot better.
Yeah. She shouldn't be scared of what's going on. She knows what's coming. She knows the whole point of all of it.
There is that as well, yeah.
If she's going to be freaked out by like
Good
why
point.
would she? Why?
She's part of the conspiracy.
She's part of the plan. Yeah, if she knows there's going to be someone wandering around dressed as Krampus because it's her lover.
That's a really good point. Yeah, I suppose. But then this is the story which you're watching.
But that is the story that we're watching.
Oh man.
That Simon is there with her, so she's got to ham up the fear in front of Julian and in front of Cecilia and in front of Toby. That she has to ham up. So when she's losing the plot about the scratches and things like that, she has to, because that's part of
that's the plan. But her on her own down the corridor isn't.
Yeah, doesn't need to be there. It's irrelevant. Why would she start getting freaked out about seeing shadows of Krampus running around?
So that serves the story and I think the audience.
I think so, probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
love that sort of stuff. Yeah.
I did notice that there weren't quite as many boom mics in mirrors and things as it said there were on the screen. Like, I went back a couple of times and checked, so I didn't see that. And it's almost, they made it less amateurish than it was supposed to be.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the amateurish stuff was more, well, it was obviously the move of the picture.
Yeah.
But it was more, yeah, I think it just wasn't, I don't think it was amateurish, was it? It was like, it's a pastiche of this style.
Apart from things like, I hadn't actually noticed it until I read it about Cecilia missing her mark to the point where it actually changed when it was filmed. She stood completely behind the big bundle of twigs.
Yeah.
Which then took up the whole shot.
Yeah.
And he moved himself around. And obviously her walking up the stairs and running out of stairs. There were those bits and pieces. Yeah. No one eating. No one actually eating anything, yet talking about having seconds.
It's so good.
The Glühwein. Oh yeah, the German at the beginning wasn't in it. They didn't mention Glühwein. They just said it was a traditional Austrian drink.
Yeah.
Cecilia, not Cecilia. It's just Celia.
Simon and Garfunkel, you're thinking.
I can't. Yeah. Celia saying Dankeschön, and that wasn't in there. And I thought it was weird that they seemed a bit averse to having any German in the script, considering La Cachette.
Yeah.
But that all then comes in later on anyway.
Yeah.
Glühwein. Just waters down Ribena.
And it doesn't look that's because that like her facial reaction when she takes a sip, that's not a direction in the script, is it? But it's like, it's perfect. And then, lovely. Like it's really good.
There was some other amateur stuff. The fact that the tree smashes through the window and Julian just draws the curtains closed and it stops the wind.
Yeah, and then the wind, no more noise. Yeah.
And lamps being switched on and the entire thing lighting up.
And the light coming on before the switch is actually...
Banging on set. Yeah.
Yeah. No, there's, I mean, all of those, just brilliant little moments. And yeah, it's as you say, like the boom arm in the mirror direction. It's quite funny to see that as a direction in a script. Like,
it is, yeah.
the sorts of things you'd like, move heaven and earth
to make sure you don't see them.
Yeah, it's like,
how on earth do we get this mirror shot without a boom mic being in shot? Although
as she closes the cabinet door, we catch a flash of the boom arm in the mirror. We didn't actually.
Oh, there was my favourite. My favourite direction actually got changed. Julian throwing the switch on the fire where it lands at the back of the grate.
Yeah.
It didn't. It didn't even make the grate. It fell short of the grate.
And then it's perfectly positioned in the middle.
Good work, art department.
It's very good. Oh, talking of the food bit, when they're, and I know I mentioned it on the original episode, but it makes me laugh so much when they're doing the eating and they just start the meal and Kathy's like, "Don't pester your father, Toby. Off you go to bed now. I'll be up in a moment." He's literally just started eating. It's like,
Come on, Toby, that's enough for you.
It's a moment of just timing and the fact that he accepts it and is just like, "Thank you, Klaus. I've had a lovely day."
The day, I hadn't realised how absolutely mental their day sounds.
Yeah. It's like, that's a busy day.
What did they do while they were out?
They trained a reindeer and then went on a husky ride through the snow.
What a day.
Trained a reindeer? What?
Trained it to do
do what? we literally we trained a reindeer today. Like, so it's fully trained to do what, to be like a trained reindeer. Was it completely untrained at the start? Yeah, I really want to get into that. Like, what?
Well, they put it on some railway tracks.
Oh, mate.
Or maybe I've never heard on some railway tracks.
I have never heard trained used as a verb in the way of...
You've been trained.
Chuffed to bits.
Oh, man. That's very good.
That's Tim Vine.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Well, it got me. Trained. They trained a reindeer.
Trained a reindeer. So there's links here. Lancashire. Like, there's so many.
That themes. Reindeer saw something terrible happen.
Yeah.
It saw the pills being flushed down the sink and thought, I can't be part of this anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a weird... Like, in the context of what the pills actually are.
Heart medication.
Not her... Because you think when she's putting them down the sink that they're her pills, don't you?
Like anxiety pills or something.
Yeah. Especially in the context of what comes after when there's references to her kind of condition, whatever her condition might be.
I don't feel like keeping your emergency heart medication in the bathroom cabinet is a particularly great move either.
I certainly have at least a couple of pills in my pocket at any one time.
Because you don't want to be out and about training reindeer.
No, and think,
stoking the boiler on the train. Then suddenly gripping your chest.
If only I was in my bathroom right now.
That's where the pills are. Yeah, odd place for them, but narrative. I also think that the prayer that Toby says is such a dark prayer.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
It's such a dark bedtime prayer to say. Essentially, God, if I happen to die in my sleep, can you just watch out for me, please? Thanks.
Oh, man. Cheers, man.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thanks. I guess there's a reason that it's
Kathy,
used as...
good boy, Toby. Yeah. Sleep well.
There's a reason it's used in the bridge of Enter Sandman by Metallica.
I was wondering where I knew it from.
That's where it is, yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
I was wondering where I knew that. Metallica song, probably. That's where I get all my prayer knowledge.
Yeah. Most of my prayers are taken from Metallica lyrics. Yeah. And again, the most fantastic little throwaway line about Toby when they moved into the new house, heard a noise downstairs, went down to investigate, found Toby in front of the open fridge, drinking milk from the bottle and eating an onion as if it were an apple. Again,
He was just making his way through the onion.
I don't think the onion was there by accident. Let's be honest. Come on. And then Toby.
Hang on a minute. I'm not letting that go. Explain to me the non-accidental process that involves you thinking about this show like an onion and then putting an onion in it. Go on.
Well, let me just...
Better be better than the deer.
Let me talk about this. Toby wakes up. No, Toby wakes and sits up. He rubs his eyes.
Onion.
Yeah, then gets up to investigate.
No, you can't just say as though that proves your point. What is your point?
Well, there's obviously an onion is really involved here in ways that we might not be able to untangle.
No, the thing you're not meant to do when you cut an onion is rub your eyes. Don't rub your eyes.
He rubs his eyes because that's the instinct that you have. And the reason you're not supposed to do it is because it's what you want to do. It's prohibited.
Is he just telling us that he's part of an onion at the moment?
Yeah,
he's fully in the onion.
And the rubbing is like an onion. The rubbing of the eyes is again an example of amazing bad acting because it's that. And we probably talked about this last time, didn't we? Yeah, it's the putting your whole fist in your eyes,
like you're in 28 Days Later trying to kill a zombie.
But the zombie is you.
You're a zombie.
Yeah, and this actually is a pro. I've dodged that your onion question.
It was seamless, mate.
This is a prelude to a whole missing bit of action with Toby.
Yeah,
where it's when he wakes up. So when he wakes up, rubs his eyes, and then it's International Log Cabin Living Area Night. Again, so niche.
Incredibly niche.
So niche. So Toby is slowly coming down the stairs that lead into the living room. The front door is open and banging in the wind. Snow is blowing in. Toby gets to the bottom of the stairs and goes to the close the door. Toby looks back into the room, sees cloven hoof prints left in the snow leading into the house. He hears an ominous low groan from somewhere in the room. He looks into a dark corner and sees what appears to be a devil standing there with horns on his head and tail. Toby is petrified and puts the room light on. We see that the devil is just a coat on a hanger. The horns are on the wall as alpine decoration, and the tail is a scarf hanging down. Toby is relieved. He turns off the light, and the coat and hanger resume looking like a scary figure. Toby's about to go back upstairs when he sees his sack under the Christmas tree. It's now full. He looks at the label with his name Toby written on it, smiles, and goes back up to bed. We stay on the sack, and as Toby is going up the stairs, we see something soft inside. And then Dennis says, I've forgotten how scary this sequence was, actually.
Yeah. There's a callback to that later as well, in the script, in the scene where Simon is revealed as Krampus, when it says that the thing in the corner of the room has basically become the Krampus.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether that ended up being filmed or not, but it does sound pretty horrifying.
Yeah, but that whole thing is cut. And what's interesting is Toby with Celia is like, I've been a good boy, Granny. I know I have. St. Nicholas has left me some presents, which is where we have this mini fluff bit, and he's holding the sweets in his hand, and that is actually that's almost okay. Like that works within that script because, like, of him thinking the sweets are presents.
I think the whole Simon wandering around the house is potentially as Krampus before the scaring Julian bit is a strange idea, because I'm assuming the whole idea is that they're just setting this up to then really freak Julian out at the end and cause the heart attack because she knows he's of weak heart. And so is it entirely necessary for these scenes to be going on with, like you said, with before, her in the corridor with the creepy shadows and things like that? No, that's not useful to us at all, because that isn't what the story is. And the same thing with him lurking in the room, messing with presents and all these kind of things. Is that entirely necessary? Because Toby isn't the target here at all. Why are you trying to freak Toby out? It's Julian at the end. And
unless it's it's got another level to it in terms of the kind of, I don't know, the fetishization of like this whole situation, where actually those are a kind of important, alluring aspects of this story, which actually playing those parts, dressing up in that way, pretending to be scared, feeling like this is some, like the role play aspect of like, yeah, this is happening. Actually, that's true. There's a thrill aspect to that maybe for them.
And maybe that was something that was felt didn't necessarily need to be there when they came to trim some stuff down. And it was a case of, okay, well, what can go? Well, we don't lose anything by that kind of undertone disappearing.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't necessarily directly serve the story. It just gives another element to it that.
But that's what you get to at the end, as well as the weird kind of like the sexual kind of, I don't know, that combination of like death, horror, sex, and that convergence at the end, which I suppose is potentially there in those moments through that script.
I think what's really weird about the way that this film, the film within the episode builds to its climax, is that there's no clue. If you're watching that film because you want to watch that sort of film, there's very little really to satisfy your bloodlust
in the film itself
throughout all of it until you get to the point where she's actually murdered.
Yeah.
So it's like, you're like, what? I like, alongside my snuff film, I like a bit of silly 70s nonsense. I like a bit of it, but then it has to build to something horrific at the end. Someone literally dying at the end.
That's a really good point. Like,
because you'd have thought that you're watching something like that, every couple of scenes someone's getting taken out.
But then I suppose maybe there's something about especially in the context of something where she has no clue and she's playing a character who is, for all intents and purposes, completely in control of the entire thing. And so she's, playing out this situation where she seems like the victim, or it is, I don't know, like kind of, I suppose the victim of her mother-in-law and her husband, who has the money and has decided, it's up to you what you do with your money, which is a really weird line. But
I think that this also speaks a little bit to the fact that not only is this a really good an example where you see these examples of people being directed to act badly and doing a really good job of that. This is almost like it's so incredibly written as a muddled story that it's one of those horror stories where they just kind of have various different ways they could go. It's not very focused. Like, you've got scenes that appear all creepy with her being entranced by the eyes of the Krampus and things like that when she's looking at the photo, and that happens again later. The picture, and that happens again later on.
Call him on photo.
And it's almost like they were just sort of throwing little things in. And you do see that in those kind of old B movies, that there isn't really a solid direction. You don't get the feel that they had that narrative in mind necessarily all the way through, and they've almost written that badly on purpose.
Yeah. No, that's true.
And they could have done what they wanted with it in that respect, I guess.
Yeah. Yes. Again, I just think it's just genius. Absolutely genius. Yeah. You mentioned climax. That was a word that was added.
Oh, was it?
fully necessarily, I think, when Dennis comes down to the studio floor, so to speak.
So to spare.
Yeah, because the interview's like, what does that mean, come down to the floor? The studio floor, I needed to be there for the ending, is what it says in the script. But in the actual show, it's I needed to be there for the climax, which I think is obviously, within that context of snuff film, sexual exploitation, like all of that stuff. It's, yeah.
How, I don't know how that's a Venn diagram with any intersection, but
it is.
Yeah.
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 It's a thing. And then, such a rush now. Always the way with filming. That's an interesting line. Such a rush now.
What's such a rush?
Because he's talking about the speed, having to get everything done really fast. But it's like the rush
Of a climax.
Yeah, absolutely. It's Gandhi in the morning, Hollyoaks in the afternoon.
Did Gandhi die in a snuff film?
Well,
Is that
and Hollyoaks died in the afternoon in a snuff film. Hollyoaks is a snuff film.
It's such a horrible ending. So horrible. So bleak.
Yeah. But from there, it's the ambiguity from there. Because you're obviously not finished here. So he's coming down for the ending. But you're still you're still in the fictional narrative at this point. Because it's the champagne bit and then when she gets tied up.
But then they cut that. They cut there.
Yeah, but it's like her being tied up by Klaus in the fictional part is an important part of then what comes to follow. But then is Klaus? What's Klaus's involvement in this? Like, because I know he like leaves the set and she says, yeah.
So Simon goes because Simon doesn't. Simon's actor clearly isn't into that, and so they bring in his.
Do you think he knows?
Oh yeah, I think so. I think it's a case of he doesn't have the stomach for that, and he's not interested in that. He comes and does his bit in the normal bit, and then it all goes a bit mental. So, overarching director comes down to the floor. They get the plastic sheets out, switch out to the guy who is happy to come in and actually murder people on film.
So who would be he would surely be the main murderer?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. Who's this?
So what's Dennis's? What would Dennis be charged with?
I don't really know. I guess there's conspiracy stuff going on. I'm not an expert in this area of the law. I feel like we touched on this last time round as well.
We've certainly talked about
to get away from things.
Your area of expertise in law.
It's not as bad as it sounds.
Yeah, I was going to say
that sounds dreadful.
Really nice and ambiguous.
Yes, as the camera swings to the side when we see off the set, we see a bald fat man, bare-chested, putting on the Krampus mask and gloves. Dennis, can someone tell me what's going on, please? The camera's repositioned. Kathy is still chained to the bed. One of the stagehands starts to tie a gag around Kathy's mouth and she becomes visibly distressed. The sound dips and we hear Dennis's commentary.
Oh, it's so horrible. It's so horrible.
I don't think I want to watch the end.
Yeah, always a strange moment.
That's weird.
And that always a strange moment. Yeah, I know.
That he specifically comes down to the floor to watch that. Because I can't imagine for a second that anyone in that film goes, right, I'm only doing this if Dennis is down on the set as the main director at this point because I want no part of this. Unless this is like a Simon thing of the regular, whoever's running things on the floor at that point goes, no, I'm out here. But then why would you say, yeah, I'll be involved with this film? Just not the bit where you murder someone. I'm out there.
But that might be a comment on the whole... The thrill of it is not the ending. The thrill of it is the fact the ending happens, but it's everything that goes up to the ending. The ending obviously has to happen for the thrill of leading up to the ending to occur. But in a... I don't know, it's a...
Do you not feel like your line lies somewhere before agreeing to appear in something where someone gets murdered at the end?
Yeah, I mean, I probably wouldn't
want to be involved at all.
Yeah.
Let alone the last bit.
Depends, but yeah.
It depends. Everyone has a price, isn't it?
No, yeah. But no, I think it's an interesting commentary on the ending, on the idea of the ending and that idea of climax and the fact that of the point of no return, the event horizon, the whatever, like it's that moment where
you go off the edge.
The ending is necessary in order for the thrill to be there, because the thrill is the fact that she doesn't know she's about to die. And that's what gives them the thrill. Her dying is not the thrill.
I guess Simon maybe
does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, it does.
Like it's that
I guess, yeah. Well, I guess this is the thing, is that he says that the whole point of it is that it's genuine fear because they don't know.
Yeah, exactly. It's that whole
acting in that whole thing,
yeah.
Knowing that was coming at the end, it would be a completely different thing, because
it's the thing before what is inevitable.
She probably wouldn't agree.
I don't want to watch the ending, because actually the ending's not what gives me the thrill. It's the fact that she's now in that, she's alive in that genuine fear because she knows she's about to die, but I don't want to see her die, because her dying is not the thing that gives me the thrill. It's her knowing she's about to die.
Does she die?
We don't. Well, I think she does.
Does she? We don't.
But we don't know.
Does he get his moment? Does he get his moment of genuine fear, and actually she doesn't need to die, and this is a police interview about something else entirely?
Yeah, maybe. Maybe he thought, he stole a couple of bounties from the newsagents.
But before he did that, he filmed this.
Yeah, and then looked away. Everybody screamed. She was in on it. Yeah,
he didn't even steal the bounties from a shop. It was from a stagehand.
And they didn't even have real bounties in.
So there we go.
A couple of Duplo bricks.
Coconut-filled Duplo bricks.
My favourite. Yeah, I don't know. That's weird. I think
she probably did.
But she didn't, because this whole thing is fictitious. But let's go out another level. Let's,
I think the fact that we're here talking about this on our podcast about a TV show probably suggests that we're aware of the fictional nature of what we're discussing.
Okay.
Unless all this exists, but then Stephen Reese has some very complex characters.
Yeah. Imagine.
Oh, this is a great series, isn't it, this one?
So good.
This whole series is so good.
Yeah. They hit their stride in this series.
Sphinx.
Bill.
Diddle Dumpling. The fact that Sphinx and Diddle Dumpling are in the same series is mad enough.
Yeah.
But
and
yeah,
this. I've got to say, it's just... I can't get away from the fact that this might be my favourite episode from the perspective of genius and the way that it has come together. I just think it, as writing, as a creative endeavour, I think this is just incredible.
Does that bit of context from the foreword kind of cement that further then?
I think it, certainly sort of gives it a little cherry on the top. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Suck that off.
You are not ending the podcast on that. That is not the last word on this episode.
Got a better last word?
Just do the outro.
If you've got any thoughts, please do email us.
Oh, I've got some thoughts.
quietnightinside09@gmail.com or get in touch via Twitter, AQNIN9. Be brilliant to hear from you.
I can't look at you right now.
And we'll see you again soon. All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.